Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Wierd London. I'm a licensed cognitive behavior therapist, that's a CBT therapist, and a licensed mental health counselor. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the contents in this channel. This interview was done by Hidden True Crimes, Lauren Matthias, and her husband, who's a psychologist, have a channel called Hidden True Crime. Please like, share, and subscribe to them. They do excellent work. Lauren was kind enough to do this interview with Inan. Inan, Chef Dizzy, happens to be a neighbor to the 4 victims who died in the quadruple murders. Or 6 roommates, actually. Ethan was just a guest that night. He came to visit his girlfriend, Zana Conodle, may they all rest in peace. Inan Harsha spoke about a black luxury Jeep that he can't even remember the license plates. I can understand that it was dark, it was at night. But he gave all kind of states that it could be from. Montana, Colorado, many places in the Midwest, Nevada. And I really wonder how important that car is in the quadruple murders. Because the police said that there wasn't much traffic happening when the quadruple murders took place. We are aware that there are over 25,000 white Hyundai Elantras in Idaho, Moscow, and you can imagine how many more there are in the nearby states like Washington, Pullman.
Quiet night. You wrote about the crime on social media, and share what you remember from that night. Is that a good place for us to start right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I work about like 10, usually like 9 to 11 hour shifts. So I went to work. I got off around, I think it was around 12 that night. It was kind of like a late close, and I like bullshitted with like a coworker for a little while after work, and then I went home. It was around, I don't know, like 1:30, 2-ish a.m. It was maybe when I got home, maybe and I'm always like kind of hoping that I have like a parking spot right in front of my door when I get there, because like lots of times on campus, there's like parties and like they're pretty full. And so like this time I noticed that like, I don't know, it wasn't really any cars as usual. It's like, cool, I'm gonna get a nice spot right in front, and there was I did, and I saw like this sort of like kind of like decked out like luxury, like I thought it was black SUV, maybe like a Beamer or something, and it had like rims, tinted windows, and I was like, oh, that's like a pretty cool car. And then like coming out, like I noticed some like plates from like Arizona, I want to say, or Montana. There's kind of like it's like I'm always like kind of curious what kind of like different plates are like around and stuff. Because usually you just see like Idaho, especially in like my parking lot. And so like I came in, and it was like surprisingly like pretty empty that night. Like none of the houses and like that on those like 2 streets were having parties, which was like kind of unusual. And then I went home. It's like making some tea, just like doing some contact staff drills, and like stretching. I think I played a game of League, and then I went to bed, and then
If you could see on the right-hand side, there's a Jeep or SUV I'm not sure who owns that, but I was wondering if Elon Harsh, aka Chef Dizzy, saw that car. It does look like a nice car. You can't see the license plate. It has some nice wheels. Just a question, could it have been that car? Most of these houses or flats are owned by the same owners of the victim's house. I wonder if all the houses are built in the same way, because we clearly had seen an interview with a former tenant, a roommate, who clearly said that the house makes creaky sounds. So if somebody walks to go to the toilet, they would have been heard clearly by the rest of the people in the house. Thou shalt not kill, true crime, made an excellent clip explaining the formats of the house and the noises it makes. My question is, how come the surviving roommates did not hear anything and slept it off? I understand they're college kids. They could be intoxicated or anything else. But when you actually hear people fighting for their lives, because Xana Conodal had defensive wounds, they would definitely have heard the thud or the screaming in the house, the dog barking, because clearly the neighbor's camera picked it up.
Hey, did these knocks on your apartment door?
Well,
How did you learn about it?
I was already awake. I was just like woke up a little bit. I was still like drinking coffee, and like the cops knocked on my door, and like after they asked me some questions, like right after they left and started like they were starting to talk to the next door over. I looked on my phone and Googled it and found it pretty much instantly. And that's when I knew. And then I think it was like I don't know a couple days later when we like the names were released and we like found out who it was or whatever.
Okay, that was the question I was going to ask. Like, did you initially know that you knew them at all, or did you?
No, actually, when I first saw it, I saw the picture I saw. I thought it was actually the house, like the next house over. I was like, oh. But then when I found out it was like, the house of the people that I like, I don't want to say I knew them, but I was like, I met them. Then I was like, damn. And I don't know, it was kind of sad because actually, like they were super cool. Like I really like my neighbors.
Yeah, you had met them. Is that correct? You'd met Kaylee and who else had you met?
I think it was Santa and her boyfriend.
Okay.
And I think there was like some other people there, but I'm really bad with names, so like I need to look, like I had to like look at online like the faces to try to like remember them because it was just like it was super brief. But yeah, they were super nice and super friendly. Like
yeah,
I don't know,
yeah,
they're like the best neighbors you could want.
How could they be the best neighbors you'd ever wish for when you didn't even know them? You would have to know your neighbors to have an opinion if they're good or bad, if they're noisy, or if they're kind, if you can depend on them or not. How can they be super cool neighbors? And don't get me wrong, guys, may they rest in peace, the victims, but let's not forget that many people have said that that was the party house. We have facts and evidence that the police has been to that house at least 4 times. So if it is the party house and you're a regular person, just say a cook like Chef Dizzy, you would want your time of silence so that you can sleep, relax, go to work. But it's a college town. If the students are partying very often and loud noises are coming from the house, because let's not forget the police said at the start that this was a targeted crime. They did not know if the house was targeted or if the students were the targets. Maybe Chef Dizzy just likes party neighbors. I find it strange that he used the word that they're super nice, super cool, maybe over 27 times, I believe, or 17 times. I'm not sure which one. But he kept on using it. And if you do not know the neighbors, like you said, why would you be saying that they're super cool so many times? Or maybe it's just as a therapist I pay attention to everything that is said, but that was even mentioned by a former homicide detective on News Nation. He said himself that he found it kind of strange that Inan Harsh mentioned that so many times. He said I would have been asking follow-up questions.
One.
I have a question here that you mentioned hearing a lot of sounds typically from the neighbors. Is this because it's highly populated, poorly insulated? Tell us a little bit about the neighborhood, because a lot of us, all we see is only on the news. We're trying to grasp what this neighborhood is like.
I guess you would say it's kind of like an amphitheater here. It's like they live kind of like down like the hill, and then it's like a big open space. Everything's made of wood for the most part, and like they would have little like gatherings outside on their like in the back door, and so and then they're like drinking a little bit in Street Row, so it's like you can usually hear like parties and like just like social drinking chatter, like around the block or whatever, like usually on weekends. It's kind of like similar vibe of like what you'd think of like a small downtown city, but
yeah.
I personally believe that Inan Harsh has been following the neighbors, not in a bad way. I don't understand. He's the neighbor, but let's not forget he lives in the block on the left side. So he wouldn't be hearing all the parties going unless he passes King's Road, unless he passes the victim's house and sees them on their backyard partying, or unless he's on his way up to his building while he's parking and he could see them partying. But he said that we hear them partying, and also how loud was the parties for Inan Harsh, aka Chef Dizzy, to be paying attention to the girls. That brings me up to a follow-up question. If Inan Harsh said that they had parties, especially in the backyard, and he could see all that and he could hear all that, how many other people were paying attention to the girls' parties? Is an important question. Including Brian Christopher Koberger. Was the party so loud that everyone in the neighborhood knew about it? Because it was called the party house, whether we like it or not. To get to the bottom of this case and to get the truth, we need to be honest and understand that it was a party house. So if it's a party house, how many people have partied there? How many DNAs are lying around there? I'm sure this was a tricky case. The FBI got into the case 5 days later on the 27th. The coroner wasn't allowed to come in till 5 to 5:30. She said the police had to do their job. And let's not forget, the surviving roommates called it in 8 hours later, maybe even 9 hours later. Because we were always told by the police that this quadruple murders happened, unfortunately, between 3 to 4. Either Inan Harsh is a very observant person who really cares about his neighbors, or maybe Inan Harsh knows something more. I'm not accusing him of anything, but he seems to know a lot about his neighbors who he actually doesn't know, if that makes sense. He's only met them once, but he knows their parties. He knows that he goes in the backyards. He spotted a luxury car.
The college
Yeah.
town? Is that?
It's, as the block parties are kind of popular too. Like they'll kind of like like get in big crowds and they kind of like wander around. You know what I mean? Just like go throughout campus and stuff. Not so much lately, but like you go from like sometimes they only stay at a house for like an hour or two, and then they like kind of like wander around and stuff.
That
I
makes
guess it's
sense.
in the winter a little bit less, but yeah.
Okay. And are you? Go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry to find a question.
Yeah,
They were at like I want to say 1-ish p.m. 1:30.
Okay. So
From
shortly
the-
after the police were called, then, in other words.
Yeah, they came almost instantly. It was
Okay.
a big deal.
We have another question here. Are you a student? How long have you lived there?
I'm not a student. I've been cooking for like 6 years now, 5 years.
Okay.
I've lived here off and on for 20. What was the last question? I missed it.
Let's see. It was, are you familiar with the activities at the house? I assume they mean the crime scene. Like, you were at their house when you met them, right? I'm referring to a Reddit.
I met them. They were actually outside. I never went inside.
Okay.
But no, I didn't like. I was in my apartment all night. So.
Okay, the night of the murders or the crime, you were in your apartment all night.
I never really hung out with them. So like, to me they were just like some normal sorority girls that drank every once in a while on the weekends. So.
Okay, and yeah, and when I was asking you about meeting them, I want everybody else to know, and I know, but you also decided to share an AMA on Reddit recently, which is when I reached out to you, and you did kind of mention meeting them, or at least Kaylee, and maybe you think you might have met Xana and her boyfriend. That would be Ethan. Bringing them a bottle of wine, perhaps. Was that what happened? Or share us. Can you take us to?
Yeah, because I think the person I think I remember most is Kaylee, and like when I introduced myself, I think she was like the first one I shook hands with, and yeah, I just had like this. It was a pretty nice bottle of wine. I don't remember what kind it was, but it was pretty expensive, and I was cooking with it, and I wasn't gonna finish it, and I was like taking my trash out, so I don't remember where I was outside, and then I was just like like chit chatting, drinking a little bit, playing some cool music, and so I went down, and they were like drinking some beer, and I was just like. Asked her if she wanted just bottle of wine. I wasn't gonna finish this, and they were like, "Yeah, fuck yeah." And then I was like, "Yeah," and then I was just introduced. I'm like the neighbor, like lived upstairs, and yeah, that was pretty much it. Yeah, they were super super nice and smiley. Yeah, it's pretty much what I remember. I never met him after that. I was like, I always thought about crashing their party sometimes, but I never actually like did it. I usually got my own thing going on.
That didn't sound right. Inan Harsh As a grown man, why would you want to crush a party of 20 years old? 20, 21 years old? Y'all are not in the same age unless you were obviously, this is, guys, this is for entertainment purpose only, my speculations, clearly my speculations. Inan Harsh, it seems to me like you were watching the girls, obviously. For you to know about their whereabouts, that they were having parties at the backyard. You said at the start of this interview that you did not know the girls, but some friends of yours at work grew up in Coeur d'Alene, where Maddie, Zana, and Kaylee was from. So did you get any information about the 3 victims from your friends? Allegedly, just a question. How much did you know about these girls? Why would you want to crush into a party that is for 20 years old? It doesn't make sense. You're clearly in your 30s, I believe. And you mentioned Kaylee, that you spoke to Kaylee. What did you all speak about? Besides a bottle of wine.
Yeah. Yeah, you referred to them in the Reddit AMA as beautiful, joyful. I can't remember the other 2 adjectives, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
He's addressed the girls many times as beautiful, joyful, wonderful. To use those adjectives for someone, you would know them well. You can say, oh, my friends are beautiful, they're wonderful, or they're full of it, or whatsoever. That is with people you know. Why would you be saying over 20 times that they're beautiful and they're wonderful? Did you have your eyes on them? You wanted to crash their parties, obviously. And guys, these are not my words. This is Chef Dizzy, a.k.a. Inan Harsh's words. Inan Harsh mentions later in the interview that he wasn't at the grub truck. I can believe him. I would take him on his word for that since he says that, but it's kind of strange. The person we saw at the grub truck looked a lot like Inan. So unless Inan has a twin or a clone, it does not make sense to me. But I do believe him. Like he said, I'm a chef and I can't even afford using money on the grub truck. I would believe that. Because those are his words, but it did look like him. It doesn't sit right with me that Inan Harsh wants to crash their parties. These are young girls. Young girls, 20, 21. Why would you want to chill with people that can be your younger sisters and brother? Kids. They were literally babies. They just turned 20 and 21. And you're offering them an expensive bottle of wine? Were you expecting to be invited in? And I wonder, just my speculation, does any of your windows face their backyard by any chance, Just a question. Because you can't be always out watching them party on the backyard. You must be having a place to watch it from, allegedly. I'm just saying my opinion, guys. So I'm not accusing Inan. These are questions that I find and answers that I find really odd. Inan mentions even that when he sees the black car, I'll take it to that part. He says he thinks he could have seen the white Honda there. And this was when, I think this interview was done on the 7th of December. I think it was the same day the Honda was in question. How come he didn't mention that in his Facebook? Is he just a true crime junkie, or is there more to it? I'll give you a very good example. If you'll remember the case of missing Suzanne Morphew. I always pray for Suzanne. Suzanne and her beautiful daughters did not deserve what has happened to them. Suzanne Morphew was missing from 2020 on Mother's Day. Barry Morphew. This case reminds me a lot of Barry Morphew, BK and Barry Morphew, because let's not forget that Barry Morphew, his phone was on air flight mode. They tried to charge him with the murder. He was arrested. He was imprisoned for 10 months, but he was let go. He won the case because there wasn't much evidence to prove it. Because up to today, they haven't found Suzanne Morphew's body. I hope they do. Her family need a closure. But this case reminds me a bit of Barry Morphew, because I just remember Barry Morphew allegedly used to listen to true crime and iPod car shows. So I think Barry Morphew was practicing his timelines and questions that will be asked when Suzanne goes missing, which she did. Inan Harsh is the one who made appearance on social media, almost writing a book about this case in a very early age. So it is questionable. Very questionable. He says he doesn't know the 4 victims, but yet again, he seems to be calling them wonderful, beautiful, joyful, like he knows them.
Super nice and smiley. That's pretty much what I remember. I never met him after that. I was like, I always thought about crashing their party sometimes, but I never actually did it. I usually got my own thing going on.
Yeah. But, yeah, you referred to them in the Reddit AMA as beautiful, joyful. I can't remember the other 2 adjectives, but yeah,
they seem wonderful. And some of my coworkers actually went to high school with them in Coeur d'Alene, so it's a trip for us. So, and they said they're super cool too. So it's crazy that it's when you think about these people getting stabbed, it's kind of horrifying, because it makes you think that it can happen to anyone. Not just people who are doing some shit. You know what I mean? Just normal people every day. I think that's the really spooky, scary part right now to some people.
Yeah. What's your thought about the luxury SUV now, looking back? You probably didn't think too much of it then. Any ideas?
No, not really. It was pretty decked out. I think had rims and windows. It just a cool car, and that's why I noticed it. But I didn't I just assumed it was one of the the people's parents. A lot of the students here have really rich parents, and they have nice cars. So that's just kind of what it seems like to me.
Why would super cool, super rich parents come to visit their children around 12 at night on a Saturday night when they know the college kids are partying? Where did you get that idea from, Ilan? If I may ask. Parents don't usually come that late. Parents do have a life. We all are parents. If we have children in college, there's certain times we come to see them. Parents wouldn't want to drive so late at night and disturb or crash into the students' parties, I assume. We parents try to avoid knowing what our children are doing. And we don't want to bust in and crash into their parties, because that would even disappoint us, catching our child doing something we don't expect them to do. Why was Inan Harsh so focused on that black car? And Inan Harsh, my question is, you told Truth and Transparency that you were subpoenaed by Ann Taylor. Ryan Koberger's attorney. You said that you went there in January to the courts and they told you you're off the hook. The words are very important to notice, the words he used. Why did she subpoena you? That is what actually got my attention with Inan Hosh. I wouldn't say let me choose the right words. I always thought that there was something odd about his interviews and everything he wrote on Facebook and all. But when Inan Hosh himself said that he was subpoenaed by Ann Taylor, that was automatically a red flag, because Ann Taylor has thousands of people that she can subpoena easy. Where do you come into? Where do you come into her observation? She observed you for a reason. Is it because you're keeping on saying that the girls are so wonderful, beautiful, joyful? You wanted to crush into their parties? And this car you keep on talking about, it could be nothing, but it could be actually everything. This black car could have come from outside. We don't know what the car was about. And if Elon said it has Montana, Nevada, Arizona, or any other plates on it, I don't believe parents would come so late. And even if it was parents, it is important to know who exactly owned that car, why that car was there at that night, and how many people were in the car.
In Colorado, but I think, or like Montana, and like I saw one of those cars like parked up on the hill of our lot a lot. I'm wondering if it was a white Elantra. I'm thinking back and I can't remember. Like I don't want to say it was or not, but that was the only other car I noticed that didn't seem like someone that lives there. I don't know.
Did you see how Inan Hosh slipped that in quickly? It could have been a white Elantra too. Yeah, it could have been in the place. How would you know about the white Elantra? Why would you add that into your conversation when I believe it was the same day or the day before that it came out? But he's trying to maneuver things around putting in the white Elantra. You always mention the black SUV with Montana, Arizona, Nevada plates. Why would the white Elantra be seen in there? Is that why Ann Taylor subpoenaed you? And why would Ann Taylor say the word "you're off the hook"? Were you in the hook to start with? And guys, that is not my words. That is Inan Hosh's words. That's what he told Truth and Transparency. Did you see how he added? He just slipped in the white Elantra. Yeah, the white Elantra could have been part of it. And let me rewind this.
Looking back, you probably didn't think too much of it then. Any ideas?
No, not really. It was pretty decked out. I think you know, how like rims and windows. It just like a cool car, and that's why I noticed it. But I didn't I just assumed it was like one of the people's parents. Like a lot of the students here have really rich parents, and they have nice cars. So that's just kind of what it like seemed like to me. And I don't know. I saw I think it was like kind of like a deserty. It was either like Arizona. It might even been Colorado, but I think or like Montana. And like I saw one of those cars like parked up on the hill of our lot a lot. I'm wondering if it was a white Elantra. I'm thinking back and I can't remember. Like I don't want to say it was or not, but that was the only other car I noticed that didn't seem like someone that lives there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not that observant, but I'm pretty. I'd say more observant than like most people, I guess.
Yeah. Liz is asking, did you know that your coworkers knew them before or after the murder?
No, one of the next day I went to work, I had one of the dudes talk down and talk to me, and just like ask me how I was doing and talk, and always telling me how like knew some of the people or something, Like, it's like, wow, that's crazy. But I mean, that's like Coeur d'Alene's pretty local, you know what I mean? So like,
Right.
it's not that far off.
Right, and that's where you work then, is Coeur d'Alene. Is that
No,
what
I
you
work
said?
in Moscow. No, I work in
Oh,
Poland.
you
Sorry.
went to high school with them in Coeur d'Alene, and you work in Moscow. That makes
No,
sense.
I didn't go to high school with them. One of my coworkers did.
Okay.
I went to school in Poland.
Okay.
Did you hear what Inan Hush just said? He went to school in Pullman, Washington. So if you have gone to school in Pullman, Washington, you would know the area of Pullman, Washington well. I wonder if you know anyone in Pullman, Washington. I wonder if you know Brian Christopher Koberger, if you've met him in Pullman, Washington. Just a question. But Inan Hush says that his friends, his co-workers in the restaurant knew the girls from Corderin. He said that he found that out later. Strange. For me, at least. That shows that you do know more about the girls. You've said that they're wonderful, joyful. You seem to know their whereabouts, that they party in the backyard. You know what kind of cars are parked outside their house. If I analyze it as a cognitive behavior therapist, I believe that Inan Hush knows more. That is just my opinion. And I could be completely wrong. Or there could be something here. But I believe there is something here for Ann Taylor to have subpoenaed him. Maybe she saw what I saw. Allegedly. He doesn't know them, but he offered them half a bottle of wine, or an expensive bottle of wine. I find that a bit strange because people are different. If I had an expensive bottle of wine or an expensive bottle of perfume and I used half of it, why would I give the rest of it to someone? People are just different. You can see, write it in the comments what y'all would have done. Actually, that's interesting. Because I can give something that I've used half to a friend of mine, to my sister, or my sisters. I could have given it to my cousins. I could have given it to my friends. But why would I give young girls that I don't even know, although they're joyful, beautiful? Because some people may take it as an insult, honestly. Why would you give something that you've used to them? Were you trying to make conversation? Yes, definitely, because you wanted to crash their parties. And that, I feel, is a red flag. Because you're not the same age as them. And let me point out my red flags. I find it very strange that he was so observant so late at night. Remember, it's pitch black. He managed to see Montana, Nevada, Arizona, name it. He saw some kind of license. The car was black, expensive. It could have belonged to a parent so late at night. And this is all happening at the same night. The girls and Ethan are unfortunately going to lose their lives. Then he decided to come on Facebook and write a novel, whatever, a book. He was even asking Lauren Matthias, so how many views did that get? So maybe he's just a true crime junkie who wants to open a channel, but I don't think that is it. And I'll show you a red flag that has never sat right to me.
I went to school in Poland.
Okay. All right. Sleuth Mom, it's good to see you. I want to let people know that for those missing, Sleuth Mom does a wonderful job covering important cases. Thanks for being here with us, Sleuth Mom. There's some audio. I wanted to ask you this because you've come forward and said you may or may not have heard a scream. You're thinking about it now, wondering if it was a party sound you heard, or if it was an actual, scream you heard. There has been so much speculation going on, online and social media. I know you know that. You've been a part of that. We'll talk about that later. But there's been some audio making rounds of a scream. And I was just wondering if you could confirm that that was nothing you provided to any media anywhere, because a lot of people are trying to make connections there.
I didn't hear about it till basically people were telling me and things like this, and I was like, oh, LOL. Yeah, no, complete hoax. Yeah,
Okay.
nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
How many views has it got?
It's on multiple channels, so I couldn't even tell you how many views the screen has received, because there's so many different outlets, not official outlets, but YouTube.
Yeah, I didn't record anything. I don't see how I would record something after I hear something unless I was already recording, which I wasn't. So.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're an artist and that you're a chef. Do you ever stay up late doing your craft, working on things? Do you ever hear what's going on around the neighborhood ever?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess not. I mean, I usually listen to something, so I mean, I'm usually like zoned in on whatever I'm doing. But I guess it's kind of like on like the parties night, like the like I don't know, the parties are kind of just like noise to me, So like I hear that, and like every once in a while, like I'll hear like somebody return home really late in the night. But I mean, it's like semi-normal, like 3, 4 a.m. Like that's not that late. People go over to people's houses and they hang out for a long time, and then they come home on the weekends. Like that's just like college life, I feel like. And like sometimes I'll just like listen to some music in my bedroom to like kind of like tune out like anybody who's like super super late or loud. And then sometimes like you'll hear just like people walking down, like I don't know, sometimes yelling, but not like it doesn't happen like I don't know. It's not super super loud, but it's like it's campus, it's noisy. But I mean, it's like you can hear what's going on. I guess sort of like with close vicinity, but yeah, it's usually just noise. Like there's nothing like you want to listen to. I guess it's kind of weird. I guess like you can kind of like our walls are really thin, so like certain places you can hear like certain areas outside or inside, whatever. But I don't know. The place I think you can hear in that neighbor's house, I guess, is like in the house is like the yard. I feel like the yard is the place where you can hear the most things. Like, so if you're going to hear something that happened at that house, it'd probably be the yard. Like, I feel like the sounds inside, I'm guessing, wouldn't carry as much. Just because like again, I think that yard is sort of like almost an amphitheater set up a little bit. It's like it's got the hill and it's like down a little bit, and then above it is like the parking lot and another hill. So it's like I don't know, it's kind of like a meteor like hole in a sense. And so like I think probably like like in the middle the sound probably resonates around.
Inan Hush is quite observant where the sound could have come from the girl's house. He said the backyard you would hear, that's where he gave them the drink, didn't he? The bottle of wine. But he said you wouldn't hear so much the inside. Have you been inside the house, Inan Hush? How do you know of where exactly the noises would have been heard? Some people, let's be honest, are actually not involved in a crime, but they put themselves in such a bad situation that you wonder, are you trying to get attention, draw attention here, or are you just being honest of what you believe? Inan Hush knows the girls. Or let's let me be mindful. He said he's offered them a half bottle of wine. They're beautiful, they're joyful, they're wonderful, they're super cool, over 20 times. He knows that they party a lot in the backyard. He's seen an SUV from Montana, Arizona, Nevada, wherever. His co-workers know the girls, grew up with them from what's it called? Corden? Or I'm not good with pronunciation, so pardon me with that one. But he knows the girls from their hometown through his friends. So he knows where the girls grew up, who they are. He wanted to crush their party, and he heard the loud sound. I'm trying to search for that part, he says, because that did not sit right with me at all.
Okay, so you're saying you don't.
I don't know though. I don't. She drove a Ford. I don't know. Ford's not that luxury to me. I don't think I would have noticed that. I mean, it's a nice car, but I don't think it really didn't stand out to me. I don't know. It just stood out to me because like I drive kind of a sketchy car, and it's kind of decked out, and it's like I don't know. I noticed like I've always been into like cars with like rims and tinted windows and stuff like that, and this was like one of those cars I'd be like, man, probably if I was younger and rich, I probably would have bought it. So I think that's why it stood out to me. But like, yeah, it just
Pay attention to how many times Inan Harsh talks about Kaylee Concalves. When he said they were beautiful, it was always Kaylee. He mentioned her name. He gave the bottle of wine to Kaylee. May she rest in peace. Now he's talking about Kaylee driving a Ford. He said it wasn't that luxury, but it was a nice car. Kaylee was one of the 4 victims who grew up in Coeur d'Alene. Strange.
I think everyone's a little bit spooked now. You know what I mean? Like, I guess in the city the shit's like semi-normal or whatever, but like not here. Like, I don't know. So I think it's kind of scary that this would happen ever. Like, especially in this town.
Inan Harsh, I live and work in London City. London is like New York. We do have a lot of crimes here in London and outside London and many other big cities in the UK and in the States, everywhere in the world. It's not semi-normal for us to have a quadruple murder. Be careful what you say, be mindful. Murders happen in the UK, whether it's gang-related or stupid, pathetic crimes like robberies that lead to murders. We are aware of that. I've lived in London for over 15 years. Close to 20 years actually now, 18 years. And I wouldn't call that super semi-normal. There's nothing normal of a quadruple murder. It's not normal anywhere in the world. That's a mass murder, almost.
Like, put strips and stuff, you can get a gun, but like this dude like went in the house and killed them before they could really react. They grab a gun or whatever and left, and not anybody knowing. Like that's scary, you know what I mean? So like thinking about people doing that out, especially like on your block, is pretty spooky.
Wow. Did Inan Harsh give us a bit too much of his thoughts here? That didn't sound too... It doesn't sound right. How would Inan Harsh know that these students allegedly got murdered and wasn't given a chance to react and get up and get a gun, did he say? Why none? Have you been in the house? Did they have a gun? if we find out that the murders happen in this way, that the girls did not get a chance to defend themselves, then I would have asked, I hope the FBI questions Mr. Inan Harsh more. He seems to know a lot. That's my personal opinion, guys, so don't come for me. I've got a lot of heat from the grub truck video that I put up, which I never regret, because number 9 wasn't clearly putting any tickets or any chewing gum in anyone's mouth. Something was put in Maddie's mouth, and I've always said that. It's up to people. That's why we can agree to disagree in a very mindful and respectful way. Because my aim here, and I'm sure most of the YouTube creators and viewers, is to get justice for the victims. And to get justice, the correct justice for the victims, we need to check everything without being judgmental. I'm not being judgmental to Inan. I've seen people putting him down, accusing him of things he hasn't done, but I'm just pointing out what I find not to stick right to me. Now, the more I listen to Inan Harsh's interviews, the more I understand why Ann Taylor subpoenaed him. And then she said, you're off the hook. I don't think you're off the hook for now, Inan Harsh. You're all in the hook. I hope Ann Taylor watches all the grub truck videos and pulls up all the people there. From Joe to number 9 to all the dodgy people running around on a Saturday night up to no good.
Okay. Does it make you nervous at all that this is unsolved? Do you feel nervous?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit?
It's pretty brutal and like, I don't know, thought out killing, I guess. Like, it's like kind of scary, and it also kind of scary that it just happened to some ordinary people. So I think everyone's a little bit spooked now, you know what I mean? Like, I guess in the city this shit's like semi-normal or whatever, but like not here, like, I don't know. So I think, I don't know, it's kind of scary that this would happen ever, like, especially in this town. So
yeah.
And it's like, it's like you think about it, it's like, what kind of protection can you get these cases? Like, you can lock your windows, you can like, put strips and stuff, you can get a gun, but like this dude like went in a house and killed them before they could really react. They'd grab a gun or whatever and left, and not anybody knowing. Like, that's scary, you know what I mean? So like thinking about people doing that out, especially like on your block, it's pretty spooky.
Yeah. That absolutely it is. It's and thank you. Hello from England. We are so sorry to hear such a horrific crime, they said. Thank you so much. Have you talked to law enforcement since that first day they came over and asked you if you'd heard anything?
Yeah, I did once.
Once? Did they come over to the neighborhood again to talk to everyone, or did you go talk to them?
No, I wouldn't. I just talked to them later.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us about that, or is that
no, not really.
Okay.
That's off the record, Chef.
Thank you. And by the way, this is a channel where I will ask a lot of questions, but I also respect my guests. For those wondering if something's off the record or you don't ever want to answer it, that's all you need to say and we move on. So thank you. You posted on your Facebook. I'm going here, by the way, to my phone to look at questions that I have written for you. And I'm also getting questions over in chat. While I look, you have mentioned on your own social media pages and even posted some of the proof that you've been getting harassed yourself and feeling the wrath of true crime sleuth and speculation. Can you tell us a little bit about that or what you've been going through?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of, it's almost hilarious to me that people think I did it, and they're like telling me like, yo, you did it, and it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like the equivalent to like flat Earth theory to me when I like read some of these like Reddit conspiracies and shit. I don't know. I've been mostly ignoring it, but try sometimes I read it and it gets to me, but I don't know. It's the other time it's just like it's almost entertaining to me, but it's a little bit scary too. I'm like, what are these people trying to get me? But it's whatever.
Inan Harsh, I'm really sorry that you're getting heat from people. People need to be mindful we can speculate in a very reasonable way because we need to get to the bottom of justice for these victims. But when you say that it is at times entertaining to you, there's nothing entertaining with 4 young humans that have lost their life in such a brutal manner. So be mindful of what you say. Nothing is the word entertainment does not come into this. True crime is not for entertainment, especially not when 4 young lives have been brutally taken away from this world. But I can understand when you're saying you're getting heat, that is wrong. But this is what happens when you mix yourself up in a quadruple murder. And I don't blame people for speculating. If they do it in a wrong manner which affects your reputation, that is wrong. But with everything that you have been saying, I understand where these people are coming from. They have no right to attack you, but I understand where questions are coming up from Inan Harsh. I don't know if you find this entertaining, but you need to go back to your interview and check the things you say. I don't know if you're searching for clots here, if you're searching for fame, or if you're trying to write a book. But these 4 young souls need justice. And we want the real killers or killer, trigger warning, to be held responsible. We are interested in things you said, Inan Harsh, because most likely you could help us to get closer to this case. I don't believe you did it, but I believe you know a lot. You know a lot of things that are very questionable. You seem to know where the girls party in the backyard, where the noises are isolated and where the noises are loud. You seem to know the cars parked in the area. You said you heard a scream, and I'm searching for that part. The scream you heard, the words you used was concerning. That's all I can say. Really concerning. You said you heard... Yeah, I won't even repeat that. I'll find that actually.
Our apartment complex didn't even really have lights in like the hallway or cameras until like right after. Then they put up like some motion sensors and stuff. But like, there's like, for the most part, this neighborhood's like pretty dark, and I don't know, I kind of liked it. You know what I mean? It's like at night, like there's no lights, and you kind of go to sleep really easily. But yeah, I don't think very many people have cameras because they don't really feel unsafe in this neighborhood or whatever. Most people know people too, so it's like, yeah, it's not a really sketchy neighborhood, like.
Wow. Inan Harsh knew that there wasn't any sensors or lights around before, and after this quadruple murders, sensors were put up. He said he liked it. Strange. You could sleep easily, peacefully. That's what he said. Wow, I wouldn't have had that. I don't understand that it's the main cities and roads and all that have sensors and lights. But sensors and lights should have been put up from the start. We have sensors in our whole neighborhood. When you're walking down, the lights automatically turn on. And that is the way it's supposed to be at night. But he was aware that there wasn't any sensors up or any lights. I would have paid attention to that. I find it very fascinating of all the things, interesting, actually, of the things that Inan Harsh says. Either it's one of the two. He's trying to be very helpful. He's being genuine and just talking out, which is really good. We need more people coming out and talking. Or either he knows more than we assume. You would sleep peacefully if your house has lights or no lights. If you switch off your lights, you'll sleep peacefully, obviously. Some people like to sleep with lights on. But what has the outside to do with the inside of your house? It has nothing, Inan Harsh. Sensors and lights and all those things are important to have on the roads so that robbers, thieves, criminals, and people who are unlike people know that there's cameras around and that there's sensors around. So, but he allegedly enjoys it. Not allegedly, he says he enjoys it that way. Everyone has their own taste, I guess.
Have you heard anything about the alcohol offense at 3 a.m.? Do you know about that? It was behind the Sigma Chi house, and we have body cam footage from that. Do you know anything about that, or?
I haven't. The first I've heard of it. I don't really pay attention to the media or news really at all. I'm a stick juggler. I kind of in my own world most of the time.
Juggler.
I don't. I'm super hermit. I kind of I live like one of the most introverted lives you can imagine. But no, I'm curious though. Tell me about it.
Well, it was, and I already have one correction. Thank you to everyone in chat helping me with these little details. It was on the band field. It was about 3 a.m. There's body cam footage now that has come out from it. It was the morning of the murders. So people are, zeroing in on different things they're seeing in the body cam footage that was released, taken on the band field at 3 a.m. And I know that you sometimes hear things, not always. You say you were asleep all night. What time did you go to bed that night, by the way?
I don't know. I'm probably around like 2:30 to 4 a.m.
Okay.
I don't really look at the time after I get home, so it's all just like an estimate. But that's probably the range based off of the activities I was doing.
Yeah. One more confirmation having to do with SUVs, but now this is about Kaylee's or some. Can you confirm if there was a black Explorer that was parked there daily? It was parked behind a red Jeep inside the crime scene tape. Everybody was
I don't think it was that one. No, I'm gonna review the footage again, but I don't think it was that one.
Okay. Did you see a black Explorer that was parked there daily with crime scene tape around? Or did you notice the vehicle?
Yeah, I think so. I think I noticed a lot of dark SUVs, and I just kind of assumed they were like FBI or police or something. But this was I'm pretty sure this other car was different. And it had out of state plates. That's one of the things I noticed about it. I think this one didn't have out of state. The Ford Explorer, whatever. I don't think that had out of state plates. I could be wrong, but this one definitely had. It was I almost want to say it was Utah, honestly, but. It was barrenish. It was night. It was hard to see, but it was barren plates.
Come on, Inan Harsh. Arizona, Montana, Nevada. Now you have Utah. You finish almost half of the Midwest states and further on. Is the SUV a distraction from Inan Harsh to us? Because half of his interview, everyone seems to be interested in the SUV, while I think we should be furthermore interested in the connections between him and the 4 victims. Inan Harsh keeps on talking about the noisy places, and the places that can be heard is the backyard of the victims. He says the rest inside the house will be more isolated. He spoke about the girls and the victims not having a chance to defend themselves. I'm not saying anything about that, but I find it kind of strange because this interview was done on the 7th of December, and he seems to be saying things that the information started coming out later on, after Brian Christopher Kohlberger was arrested. And when he heard about the white Honda, he didn't mention that before, but now he mentioned it today. He says that I think there was a white Honda parked around there. Either you saw it or you didn't.
I've got 3. Well, I don't have 3 anymore. They're expired, so they're off my record now. As of like 3 years ago. So It's been like 10 years. But yeah, I had 3. I had a possession of marijuana. Had possession of MDMA with intent to deliver, and I had a delivery of MDMA.
Okay.
Doing this is just absurd, but.
So with that being said, what none of your neighbors fit the bill. What type of person do you think this might have been?
What it was? I'm looking into I don't know if it's true, but I was looking into a report that said it was like almost a blunt, heavy object, and a really strong person did it. I'm kind of imagining like maybe like a hunter dude, like some like super mentally ill dude who's maybe experienced with hunting, who has like some type of like farm blunt stabbing object, and just like really waited patiently until everything was really quiet. Like maybe he knew about this weekend was being quiet and then went in there and did it. But I don't know. It's like, it's so bizarre. Like it's hard to think about it because I think the first thing I try to think about is a motive. And that's like, it just draws me into a bunch of blanks. So yeah, but I mean, there's like, there's surrounding areas that have a history of lead poisoning. So like,
we lost you for a bit, or at least on my end. If you want to try to.
Did he say blood poisoning, or did I hear that wrong? He doesn't come back after this, strangely enough.
You wrote about the crime on social media, and share what you remember from that night. Is that a good place for us to start right now?
Yeah. Okay. So I work about like 10, usually like 9 to 11 hour shifts. So I went to work. I got off around, I think it was around 12 that night. It was kind of like a late close, and I like bullshitted with like a coworker for a little while after work, and then I went home. It was around, I don't know, like 1:30, 2-ish a.m. Was maybe when I got home, maybe and I'm always like kind of hoping that I have like a parking spot right in front of my door when I get there, because like lots of times on campus, there's like parties and like they're pretty full. And so like this time I noticed that like, I don't know, it wasn't really any cars as usual. I was like, cool, I'm gonna get a nice spot right in front. And there was I saw like this sort of like kind of like decked out like luxury, like I thought it was black SUV, maybe like a Beamer or something, and it had like rims, tinted windows, and I was like, oh, that's like a pretty cool car. And then like coming out, like I noticed some like plates from like Arizona, I want to say, or Montana. There's kind of like it's like I'm always like kind of curious what kind of like different plates are like around and stuff, because usually you just see like Idaho, especially in like my parking lot. And so like I came in, and it was like surprisingly like pretty empty that night. Like none of the houses and like that on those like 2 streets are having parties, which was like kind of unusual. And then I went home, was like making some tea, just like doing some contact staff drills and like stretching. I think I played a game of League, and and then I went to bed, and then as I was falling asleep, it usually takes me like 30 minutes to an hour to fall asleep. Like, I don't know, I guess, I dismissed like initially like, one of my neighbors returning home loud after me. So I heard like, a car shut, a door shut, and then like, apartment door shut, and like also like a scream. But like, that's like normal. Like I always hear like screaming almost every Saturday night. So like I didn't really like think of it. And so, but like, yeah, just looking back, I was like, I wonder if like, that wasn't just like some drunk dude like screaming, like it's actually like the murder. And, like, yeah.
Wow. That's all I can say. Let me find the right words to phrase this since this is YouTube. Did he say Sexually? Sounds? How would he hear that from his house? Wow. Inan Hush, aka Chef Dizzy, is that the reason you were subpoenaed? How would you hear a scream and assume it is Sexually related? Wow, he must have some sharp ears. I take that as a red flag, and that's my personal opinion. I take 70% of the things that Inan Hush has mentioned to stand out for me compared to the other people who've made an interview. That is a weird thing to say. How far is his flat to the girl's backyard that he could hear a scream that was Sexually related? Was he allegedly there? Was he near the property? Was he standing outside? Because you can't hear that. Didn't he say earlier on that the house was very isolated inside, that you can only hear the backyard? Was he standing in the backyard and listening maybe? Allegedly? Throwing some dustbin outside and then he heard that? Because this does not make sense.
Like, that wasn't just like some drunk dude like screaming, like it's actually like the murder. And yeah, and it was like, it was kind of a trip having like the cops like come on and like, when knew what happened. They're just like, asking where we were. And we're like, this is weird. Like they're knocking on every single door in our apartment. Like that's never happened before. And then like I went inside and looked on the news and it was like 4 people stabbed to death. It's like right across the street. It was like, holy shit. A car shut, a door shut, and then like, apartment door shut, and like also like a scream. But like, that's like normal. Like I always hear like screaming almost every Saturday night. So like I didn't really like think of it. And so, but like, yeah, just looking back, I was like, I wonder if like, that wasn't just like some drunk dude like screaming, like it's actually like the murder.
Is Inan Hush trying to say that this murder was Sexually related? Because he said, looking back at it, I thought the scream was that kind of related. Sexually. How would he know? Basically, he gave us the motive. He was asking before, like, what would the motive be? Is that the motive, allegedly? That is a very weird thing to say. I hope you get re-subpoenaed by Ann Taylor, because you need to be questioned. The FBI and Idaho Moscow did not do a proper job at the start. I wouldn't say the FBI. I would say Idaho Moscow chief and his team. Let's be honest. Because the FBI was not invited into this case until the 17th of November. That is where everything got messed up. Certain cases like a quadruple murder, the FBI shouldn't, I personally believe, although I live in the UK, they shouldn't wait to get an invitation by Idaho Moscow. They should have got a warrant and taken over the case. They should have been lead on the case, because a lot of evidence has been tampered with. The crime scene The police were called in 8 hours later. We don't know if anything was maneuvered around the scene, and we will never know. If you ask me, half of the people in Idaho, Moscow have bushy eyebrows, but then I'll leave that for another day. It's not only Brian Koberger. That's my personal opinion. Look at the guy in the Banfield alcohol stop, the one with the can of beer in his hand. That is the description of actually bushy eyebrows. Please like, share, and subscribe. This is for entertainment purpose only. We can agree to disagree. This is my opinion. This is the way I personally analyze this interview. I ain't the police. I ain't a criminologist in the police, but I'm a cognitive behavior therapist. I believe CBT is a very interesting therapy. We do assessments. We don't do evaluation. That is the psychiatrist who evaluates and diagnoses. But assessing patients, we do it with working hand in hand with a psychiatrist. And what I see here in this interview, I wouldn't judge Inan harsh, but there are very questionable things, not only in this interview, in most of his interviews. Thank you, Lauren Matthews, for doing an excellent interview. Thank you, Chef Dizzy, aka Inan Harsh, for giving us your insights, because he definitely helps with the case to find out what the black SUV car was about. But the scream that he said he heard, and he believes it's SEXUALLY related, is the question. That is the reason I believe he's subpoenaed by Ann Taylor. For an attorney in a quadruple murder case to have subpoenaed him and then to say later on he's off the hook, I don't think she's done with him. I don't think. They're very questionable. I think Inan Harsh is one of the most questionable interviews in this whole Idaho Moscow case. That's my opinion, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe to Lauren Martis, Hidden True Crime. She did an excellent interview. She's a former reporter in Idaho, and it's really excellent that she could do this interview, because it's always better that interviews are conducted by professionals. Just like I'm a CBT counselor, therapist, practitioner, her job is, she is definitely an excellent reporter. Thank you. Have a lovely day. Bye.